Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned and share them with us as well. As always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method to book 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborn. The link to that will be in the show notes below. But on today's show, our special guest is John Burness. He's the owner of Axiom Two, where he provides business turnaround services. So, John, welcome to the show. And as always, I love asking this question to start off with. If you were able to go back in time, when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thank you for inviting me, first of all. Interesting question. I think it would have to be don't don't let the fear get to you. Um, I've recently been working with a guy that he's just set up his own business, and he said to me, the first thing he said, John, is, "So you're looking to jump into the abyss?" I think that's probably what you do when you start your first company. But taking stupid risks, as long as you use some kind of objective reality to to work out what the risk is, it works. I think that sort of don't be as scared as perhaps you were when you first did it.
Yeah, I think it's true. I'm kind of laughing internally when you say that. It is like jumping off into the abyss. You don't really know exactly what's going to happen. You don't know if it's going to quote unquote work out the way you planned or work out at all. And it is a bit of a scary process. Through the course of you building your business, and of course, as you working with clients as well, what's what's the number one piece of advice that you would give people that you've learned to manage fear? Because fear is not just something that happens when you start the business. As you're growing, it's there once you become quite successful. I know oftentimes there's a fear of losing what you have. There's a lot of fear in that. If you're launching a new project, there's a lot of fear when it comes to business. How do you manage those things?
I think, yeah, I mean, we try to. I've worked out over the years that the way most people look at things um, doesn't actually, often doesn't match the reality of what's going on, particularly business people. And I think that if you can focus your thinking and look at the reality of a situation rather than the sort of stuff that's going through your head, um, then you're more likely to be able to have a good outcome. Richard Branson said, "Always look at the downside 10 times more than the upside," didn't he? And I think if you adopt that kind of philosophy, and you can be quite realistic, you can you can obviate the fear because you kind of know what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So, looking at the downside, understanding what it is, not letting it guide you by fear, but just understanding the downside. And if you can say, okay, if the worst outcome of this, if I can handle that, it lets you mitigate that risk. Is that summarizing what you're
Yeah,
communicating?
yeah. I mean, you should be able, I mean, startups probably slightly different, but you should be able to, once you've got a viable business going, you should be able to manage the downside that it's not existential. So it might not be as great as you hoped it would be, but it's not going to kill you, basically.
Yeah.
And if you've got that, I mean, particularly in startups, I always say to people, I mean, cash is king. If you've got 6 months, if you can see 6 months cash forward, then whatever happens, you've got time to adjust and change, and you can sleep at night. If you've got 2 weeks cash going forward, you're not going to be sleeping. Um, so, I think if you can manage your business with a sense of reality rather than hope,
Yeah.
um, I think that's the best way to obviate the fear.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to talk about that idea of hope. I think I don't know if it's all businesses owners deal with this, but I think it's something that I've seen a lot throughout my career working with people is that balance of hope. Hope wanting to build something, um, but not letting that hope be something where it becomes what I call hopium, where you're just living off the hope of being successful without the reality of what's
Mm,
needed to get there.
mm.
And I'd love your thoughts around that since you kind of raised up the whole hope concept, which I think is a really interesting idea when it comes to business.
Well, everyone needs hope, don't they?
Yeah.
You you wouldn't go into business if you didn't have hope. But hope gets kind of like stitched in with ego, with hubris, um, with sort of lack of realism, um, and then it becomes incredibly dangerous. So yeah, you have to have hope, but you have to temper that with a real sense of realism.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I
Yeah, I
agree with
mean,
you. Hope. Yeah,
you
go
have
on. Sorry,
hope. You
John.
have hope when you walk into a casino, don't you? But we all know who wins in a casino.
Yes.
um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and going back to your first point, hopefully when you're doing stuff in business, you've mitigated things where you're not just gambling things away. But
mm,
yeah, I agree. I mean, hope is um, I think some of the most successful entrepreneurs have this almost unrealistic optimism on it being successful. And I think you have to have that because of the challenges you have to manage building a business. But as you said, it's that balance that comes into it with a bit of realism as well. There
mm,
has to be that hope mixed with determination around
mm.
that. So yeah, love that point, John. Um, I'd love to ask a little bit of a different question around this. And I always think we can learn a lot from the challenges we've had if we actually learn the lessons. And I'd love to hear about what's the biggest challenge that you've faced to date in your business, and what are the lessons that you took away from that?
Well, I'm not a young man anymore, am I? So, I've had a whole career of. I mean, we did our first startup years ago, literally out of the front room of a house. So I think I've had every challenge, probably. I've stared into the abyss a lot. What's the biggest challenge that I've faced? I think honestly the biggest issue that I've faced as a business person is dealing with other shareholders.
Mm,
Um, when I started, obviously, if you don't have any money, you've got to go in with other people, haven't you? And actually, um, those shareholders' attitudes and aspirations as the business developed ultimately became a real problem. It was an existential problem for the business.
mm,
I've also owned companies completely by myself, and that's a challenge because you've got no you've got no one to challenge you. You can take your foot off the pedal. Um, and then ultimately, when I sold my sort of group of companies that I owned, I went back into an environment where there are other shareholders around. There was a lot of politics, um, and you spent 90% of your time not thinking about whether you were going to make any changes to the business. There was you were constantly worried about you go to a board meeting and you could hear the knives being sharpened behind your back. Um,
yeah.
So I think, along the 30-year period that I've been in business, I'd have to say that is probably consistently the most challenging thing, is dealing with investors and other shareholders and owners.
Yeah. If we boil it down, it sounds like you're saying the most challenging bit is dealing with people.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I mean, second most, then I think, is property leases. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they are an absolute nightmare. Um, you've either got too much space, not enough space. So ultimately, I ended up I moved everybody into serviced offices in the end. I just couldn't stand it.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but no, I think you're right, dealing with people, but then if you didn't have the people, then you wouldn't really have the business, would you? So,
Yeah, yeah. I think it's one of those great misunderstandings of business because I don't, when you go into business, I don't think you think about the people element of it. I know you might realize, okay, I'll have to manage some people and deal with people, but the actual challenges of how to understand and deal with people is one of the greatest lessons, I think, in business to learn that people don't get.
well, I think when you start, you probably think that people are rational, um, but they're
True.
not, are
No, no, they're not. No. And it's funny because, I look at that and I think everyone else is not rational, but I'm sure there are times when I'm not rational in what I'm
Yeah.
doing as well. We
Mm,
all are that
mm.
way. But you're right. It's realizing that and how to manage that, which is, yeah, very huge lesson. Well, if you look at over the next, let's say 2 to 3 years of where you're going in your business, John, what are your goals? What are you wanting to achieve with the business?
So what we're looking to do, I mean, we've spent um, a few years now really doing company turnarounds, but part of the issue is that we're expensive. So when a company's in trouble, um, they're it's very difficult for an entrepreneur or a business owner to get the help around them that they need,
Yeah.
because paying people with experience, it's going to be expensive, isn't it? So what we're planning on doing is, actually, we're launching a program, um, which is aimed at people whose businesses are struggling against strong headwinds, I think is the best way of putting it, with the objective of almost like democratizing this knowledge, and making it affordable and cost effective for people. So
Mhm.
that's what, in addition to the work we do in businesses, that's basically what we're planning. We're launching that in January. Yeah, so that's the objective.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Sounds exciting, man. Well, John, for people that are looking to get in touch with you, learn a little bit more about what you're doing, how you can help them with that service that you've just provided and the turnaround element of things as well, what's the best place for people to contact you?
They can email me, or just go onto our website. So, yeah, my email is jburness@axiom2.com. And our website is axiom2.com.
Amazing. Amazing. Well,
So
I
just
would
continue.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I definitely recommend that anyone listening to this check out John and what he's doing. He provides a great service. So yeah, thank you so much, John, for being on the show. It's been a great insights in there. I really love a lot of the things you've said. I think you hit on some really deep truths that can really help people in their business. So thank you so much for being on the show. And as a reminder, everyone listening, the show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. The link to that will be in the show notes below as well. And until next episode, stay inspired.